Welcome to The Central Issue with Declan Kennan and Christine Blinn. On this episode, our central issue is paid family medical leave. As of January 2024, only 13 states in the U.S. offer paid family medical leave. In Massachusetts, specifically, private companies with over 50 employees, as well as state and federal agencies, must allow employees anywhere from 12 to 26 weeks of paid medical, parental, and caregiving leave. According to the Massachusetts Municipal Association, while federal and state employees are covered by paid family and medical leave, employees who work for a city, town, or other local governmental employer are covered only if their employer chooses to opt in. Today, we speak with 4 educators who have been largely impacted by family medical leave policies in the hopes of humanizing the very real struggle teachers face after using all of their sick time after having a baby. This is the central issue.
I want to first go around and kind of have you guys introduce yourself. So, okay, let's start with you. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Brittany Filizzi. My son he's going to be 3 in January. So this was a couple years ago when I went on the maternity leave, the unpaid maternity leave.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go over here to the couple.
So I'm Michelle Linehan.
Michelle Linehan, get back up on that mic.
I'm Michelle Linehan. Sorry. This is my 5th year in the district. Had our son, so he's going to be 2, or he is 2. He's going to be 3 at the end of May. We were lucky to have summer break kind of coordinate with that time. But our daughter is just turned 1, and she was born last September.
Right in the beginning of the school year.
Right in the beginning.
I'm sure that worked out very well for you.
Oh, yeah, so good.
All right.
I'm her husband, Kevin Linehan. This is my 11th year overall.
Okay.
I became increasingly frustrated with my inability to help in this process and my inability to truly empathize because it's not something that I personally was going through all of the steps with. But it did certainly affect not just my wife, but me as well. Being under the same contract, not being able to kind of use things that we thought we would be able to, like sick time, because we're married.
Can you explain that?
Sure.
How it works when you're both? Because I know we have another teacher here whose husband, I believe, is a police officer.
Correct.
And they had the same issue because they both count as like one city employee.
Correct.
Right.
So I'll try my best to explain, and then if you have any gaps to fill or if I missed anything, let me know. Okay.
Great.
Should we?
We're sharing a mic right now, just like they would not let us share our sick time. Just let you know.
Should we what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Should we finish introductions first?
Okay.
Yeah,
Before we go into
Yeah, go ahead. Badr.
Okay.
You're
Badr.
here for a different reason. Why are you here, Badr?
I'm here to talk about the benefits of paid family leave, having lived in a country that offers it in Germany. So I'm Elizabeth Badr. This is my 12th year teaching over a 20-year span. I actually did take some time off to have children because I could do that in Europe, in Germany. And I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old. My husband's German, and I guess I'm here to talk about the real family benefits, because it is a family benefit when everyone can get respectable time at home with each other after a birth.
There's that word respectable, right? Because what we were talking about, we wanted to make sure that like
dignity,
Dignity.
right? Where's our dignity? And I just looking at the 3 of you for Lizzie and the Linehans when she's like, yeah, I had all the time off. And they were like, ah. Like you could see it in their faces like, okay, braggart. Like,
And I don't want to brag, but right
but
now
it's
I'm going to
important.
share the good experience because it's
Yeah.
really disgusting.
And it's
Yeah.
needed.
And it's needed.
and you see what
needed.
can be done and
Yeah.
how it doesn't cause like, oh no, because 3 people are going to take
yeah,
advantage
exactly.
of it.
Brr.
All right. So thank you for introducing
Excuses.
yourself.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's go back to you guys here.
Splitting time, I think. Is where
Yeah, we were talking. Can you explain how that works? Well, first of all, should we explain what people get in general? Right. So how many you can use?
Probably.
You can use all of your sick days
If you have
if you have them. Get up on that mic.
Yeah, get it.
So I'll start because, again, I was only in the district for 1 year. So I had, I don't know, it was the COVID year.
Yeah.
So we were all virtual until
Yeah.
the very end. I had maybe 15 days of sick that I never used that year. So I started the new year with about 30 sick days that I could use towards the maternity leave if I wanted. So because our son was going to be due at the end of the school year and it landed where perfectly we had summer break, I didn't need to do FMLA. And I didn't want to because I knew that we wanted to have another child and I wanted to save as much sick time as I could. So the thing with our daughter, though, is by that time, I think I only had 15 or 10 sick days left for her to be born. And when you apply for FMLA, you have no choice but to use your sick time. You don't even have the option of opting out.
Right. I was going to say that, like the second portion, I think they made me, because do you have short-term disability? Did you?
Well,
guys
that
have
was another thing is they said, oh, well, you could apply for disability, but if you find out you're already pregnant,
Yeah.
then you can't do it.
Yeah,
So I didn't have
Yeah.
the option
Has
of
to be
disability.
before.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so
Crazy.
awesome.
Yeah. So with that, I had to use my sick time where it landed because I asked for a medical leave, which they also said if your due date, you can only leave 4 days before your due date, which, again, I don't really want to have that happen in front of my students. So my son was
don't want your water
no,
breaking in the middle of your classroom
I don't.
floor.
Yeah.
And my son was a week early, so I figured I should get a week leave before my due date, which I'm glad I did because my daughter was early. But at that time, too, they said, well, because you're using your medical leave, you actually have to use your sick time for medical leave. So the way that it landed was that it happened to be a pay period where I actually worked the first week, and then the second week I used my sick time. And then the following paycheck, I had half of it as my sick time that I had left, which was 5 days. And then half of it I didn't work, right, because now I was on maternity leave. My paycheck, I think, was $100 and something. I said, this doesn't make any sense. I have, at least 5 days of sick day. I should be at least paid hourly for those sick days. And they said, no, we actually minus every day you don't work.
Yeah, oh, I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
you're
and I
gonna,
know-
you're gonna have to
God.
explain that to me because it's your
Yeah.
sick time.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
but
what do you mean minus the days that you don't work?
Yeah.
the way that they explained it was, well,
Forgot all about that.
yeah, you're still using your sick time, but because you weren't, you have a contract. So because you're
The
not
180
working,
days.
yeah, you're not working the days. We have to minus how many days that you're not working. So it was like minus, I want to say $300 a day.
Yeah.
So by the time my paycheck after taxes and deductions and everything else, I had barely any paycheck, and which also happened on my return. So the first week I came back, I worked 2 weeks. My paycheck should be 2 weeks worth
And
of
it
work.
wasn't.
My paycheck was $100 and something, and I asked HR. I said, "This doesn't make any sense. I just worked 2 weeks. I thought my paycheck would be normal," and they said, "Well, because you didn't work a certain amount of days, we had to readjust your salary." I said, "Well, why isn't my just every paycheck adjusted?" They said, "Well, it's easier for us to just deduct the first paycheck." And I laughed. I said, "Well, my children are in daycare, and now I'm paying for 2 in daycare. It's over $600 a week, and I don't even have a third of it." And they said, "Yeah, sorry."
Yeah, wow, I forgot all about
Yeah.
that. The whole, that was a whole, you
So they
remember a
don't
little more
even-
because it was more recent, but
Yeah.
they
All right.
did the same thing.
I want to be clear about this. So because it's easier for them, so they don't just kind of even it out through all of your paychecks.
No.
So then you had that one low paycheck, and then you went back to regular scheduled paychecks.
Right, which it's biweekly. So I felt like
So next month.
next month,
Yeah.
we had to pay.
Yeah.
What if you didn't have that money?
Right.
What if you didn't
We
have
didn't.
that money?
Yeah.
What happened?
That's what,
yeah.
with the health insurance, like once I added, this is like just a whole nother topic, but once I added my son on my health insurance plan, it became a family plan. So my son was born January 11th. So like when I got home, we did the whole insurance thing or at the hospital maybe. And then when I got home, like I called the lady from downtown, and they like pretty much like kind of prorated it back to like December. Like I had to stop paying for the family plan in December. He wasn't even born. So like,
Oh my
then they sent me like this email, like, it was like, well, this is like the new thing. It was like a total of like $800. I'm like, what? Like, I'm just not getting paid right now. So like, where is this money coming from? And they were like, oh, like as long as you pay like $20 a month. And I was like, I just don't understand why I was paying the family plan like before he was even
Alive.
Yeah, before he even existed. I had to like it was just a whole thing. It's
That doesn't seem legal
Well,
Yeah,
they
it's
also
because you're not a family.
yeah, I don't. Listen, yeah, it was.
What you're planning on.
Right.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
also no one's business.
Yeah, no, it was.
No, it's everyone's
that was
business
tough.
here.
That was
Yeah.
tough.
It's everyone's
like it.
business here.
That and all of our other parts, right?
Yeah. I've been watching your reaction to some of the things they're telling you.
Well, and the thing too is the fact that sorry, Kev, the fact that
Ripped
we
the mic out of his hand.
we're in this predicament where our daughter actually had suffered reflux, never slept a day in her life in the crib. She only could sleep on top of us. We found it to be even more difficult where we had to get a pediatrician's medical note for our husband so we didn't have to split a time because of the fact that we're married, we had to split time together for
That is
paternity.
just so absurd.
yeah. Give us a little more on
I
that.
think that's where I'll take over because that was
Yeah.
the most infuriating. This was the most
Yeah.
infuriating part for me because it was the only way that I could help.
Yeah.
For the first 8 years of my career, it was a point of pride of mine to not take days off. If I was able to make it to work, get to work, and we do part of our contract that I will give credit to is if you are not using your sick days, you are accumulating them, and you are kind of rewarded for that. Now, I can see on the backside of that why they accumulate them, because if you're not going to pay somebody for this kind of a leave, then you need that kind of sick time. Now, the assumption that I was stupid enough to make was that when they initially told us, and we knew this after our first child, so we were ramping up the questions for the second one because we didn't have to use my paternity leave for Franklin, our first child. I was told that any time I took off for paternity leave took out of her maternity leave time because we are together. So before your reaction gets to where it should get to, the natural question I asked then was, well, she doesn't have enough sick time. We're together. Can I give her some of my sick time? Because I have hundreds and hundreds of hours that I can. Not only that, I've been in the district longer. So if I give them to her, you're saving money.
Yeah.
You're not paying that sick day as much as if I am taking it.
Yeah.
The answer was no, you can't share them. Those are non-transferable because of the district-wide bank that we all have the ability to put into and pull from, which was the most infuriating part because it now put me in a predicament where she's not getting paid. Also, we're having all these issues at home, so it's not an issue of do you go back to work when you want to go back to work, Kev, because we need you to work. But, like, I can't even give her a paycheck anymore.
Yeah.
And anytime I stay home, I'm taking away from her ability to stay home.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and that included if I applied for FMLA or took paternity leave.
Had to share it.
It was going to be shared regardless of what we
Why
did.
do they even call it paternity leave when you're like skimming off of her maternity leave?
Because they don't anticipate, I assume, people working together and getting
in the
married. I have no idea why that
I
is.
don't get it. I did hear
I was gonna
an
say, you-
authority figure say, like, is it even really necessary? Like
For what?
For the husband to be home.
Who said that?
Obviously, it was a man, and not anybody who's had
It's
a
very
child.
necessary, honey.
Yeah,
Very necessary.
Extremely necessary. Not just to help the mom, but
Physically,
also
mentally, emotionally.
physically, mentally, emotionally, helping each other, but also. Like, my brother had to schedule his hand surgery for when his daughter was born so he could be home. And he has just a different relationship with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that bonding is real, and kids need to also bond with their fathers. Like, they have two parents that, that's it. I don't know. It just blows my mind that your paternity leave is actually really just her maternity leave.
Well, so that was something that with Franklin, our first child, it didn't really come up because I took a few days off and I just took days off. I took sick days. And then I was able to, like, we were so close to the end of the year. It was like maybe a week and a half left in the school year. And it was just, we'll get through this week and a half and then I'm home the whole summer.
Yeah.
So I was. And then I foolishly entered the second child thinking this will be similar, which it was not at all. Those first few days were kind of similar, but then I actually did go back to work.
Yeah.
almost like within a week. And instantaneously we realized this was not something we could do. Tilly, our our daughter, was not sleeping. It wasn't just a let me bond with Tilly, which I'm really grateful that I had that time to do, but it was someone is like, we're losing sleep to the point where
You can't like function.
I might lose my job at school, or like something
Yeah,
not
it's gonna
good
happen.
is
Yeah,
coming
it's gonna
out.
happen.
Of this.
Yeah. Sleep is very important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give me some reactions here.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
sitting
what are
here
you?
feeling really, really, really disgusted,
Yeah.
sad. So that was not my experience. In Germany, when a woman has a child, you are given 3 years leave time.
For what?
Paid? Is it paid?
It's not paid. Okay. So,
I would've left.
but you are
Moving to Germany.
you are and if someone listening is German and I'm wrong, you can call me out and correct me, but this is how I was explained as I was working in Germany. So my employer has to give me a job back
Okay.
at the similar rate of salary of pay that I'm leaving. Now, am I going to teach, 6th grade ELA? No, I might have to teach 9th. Right? So if
Yeah.
it's a school. But I left knowing the first year, well, you're paid, the first year you are paid 67% of your former year's pay.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, because I was talking to my students about this today, and they're like,
Did it equal $100?
more than 100, Michelle, right? More than 100.
150.
150. And you could stretch it, right? So let's say, we're a family. I can't afford to be home for 3 years. I can only afford to be home for 18 months. Then I could stretch my pay. It's my pay, right? I'm getting it, regardless of if I'm home for 12 months or 18 months. I'm getting paid. I loved that because it takes the stress off of how am I going to have a baby and raise a baby and breastfeed and heal from literally being torn apart, literally,
Yeah.
recuperate from that. And then you don't know, I think this is also just idiotic to me, that we've got districts who everyone knows that children are so different. Every pregnancy is going to be different. Every child in your family is going to be
We're in the
different.
business of children.
We're in the
you would
business of
think that the
children.
business that would-
Crazy.
You would think, but
Yeah.
no, like it's not that at all. That individualized, there's none of that. So I have to say, I was really grateful for that. Now, Jurg, my husband's name's Jurg.
I love that name
I know you guys tell me this
so
all the time.
much.
So the first year, we as a
Jurg.
family, and you don't have to be married. If you were in a
What?
common law partnership,
Progressive.
Why do we live here?
The
Actually-
father and the mother could take a total of 14 months together at 67% of pay.
Of each of you getting 67%
Yes,
of your pay.
and the way you kind of allot that is going to be the decision that you make together as a pair. Sorry, that's a German word. As a couple.
Okay. Yeah.
So we decided to do 12 months of me being home, and then Jurg would be home for 2 months because his boss also said, "You're not going to take paternity leave, are you, Herr Botter?" And Jurg's like, "Adios, I'm out for 2 months." So his boss, this was 2020, was not very happy that he was doing it. It was a new thing
Yeah.
offered in Germany, and Jurg said to him, I think something like, "This is my right
Yeah.
that the German government has given me. I will be home with my child
And
from month 12 to 14.
Was there any repercussion for him?
None, because there couldn't be.
He was just
Because it was-
the boss was unhappy, but
He
there
was
no
unhappy, but
retaliation.
he was like, "I'm sorry, you're unhappy.
Yeah.
This is my family, and this is what we're doing."
Yeah.
And Jurg is also the person, he's an engineer. He traveled all over the world for installations. He went to war zones. He went to dangerous countries. He's like, "I'm sorry, like this is what I'm doing, and this is my right, and I'm doing it." And his boss had, no repercussions.
So what you could do here, the two of you, what I'm hearing is if you just get divorced before your next child,
I mean, it's
Sounds
crazy.
you
like
could
a
both
better option.
Isn't
take
that crazy?
you could both take all your time.
That's why. And you brought up a point, Blinn, about like a police officer in the district, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's not just.
It's a
Not just teacher pairs.
teacher. It's not just teacher pairs. It's couples.
No, it's
who
public
work-
employees.
Public employees of the municipality. So because she's a teacher and he's a cop, they just like you two count as one person.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That was something that drove me to kind of look into what were the options. And I happened upon, while I was in the waiting room of the discussion being had in Springfield in the city council.
Okay.
So I read it, and this was in July of 2023, right before our daughter was going to be born, and we were told all of this information, and I was digesting it, and I was happy to see that it was being discussed at the city council, because at that point, I knew that there had to have been a reason why we were not, like, the legality of it by the state. They were giving us FMLA, but it was not paid. So I wanted to know why, like, legally they have to give us the time. Why do they legally not have to pay us?
Yeah.
And the conversation became private companies are they basically forced to do it because they are putting it in as, like, basically something that's coming out of your pay. It's already put into.
Yes.
So you're paying into it as an
Yes.
employee.
Yes.
Because we are public employees, that's where the problem lies. So they're required to give us the time off, just like in Germany. They're required to hold our job, but they are not required, because we are publicly funded, like we're funded by the taxpayers. It has to be approved by the city council and the mayor. So I emailed the president of the city council with my story, my questions. I laid it all out, like the split time. Why does this not make sense? What's the timeline? Because in the article they were talking about how they were shocked that was the case. The city council was shocked, which blew my mind that they didn't
The ones who, like,
know
voted?
this.
Wait a minute. The city council
Didn't
didn't
they
even
vote?
know.
Who
Should
They
know about
they
that.
were like, the article was talking about how they were finding out that this was an issue
Okay.
that public employees faced.
Okay.
Obviously.
They talked about how there was an audit being done of all the public employees that could potentially be using this benefit, and if it's worth it to do it. So in my email, I asked them about the audit, and he said, the president at the time said that they were wrapping up the audit that month in July of 2023. They would have a subcommittee meeting within the coming weeks. These are his words, not mine. And then hopefully they'd be able to make a decision after that subcommittee meeting, and they would need the mayor's approval as well. Never heard word one from them again. Never read an article about that audit. Never heard. I have never seen any results, any discussion about that audit since. Now, if it's out there, maybe I'm just
Didn't see it.
not able to find it. I don't know, and I would love to find out the answers to that.
Maybe we should go check the microfiche at the library. Find old newspapers.
But like that to me is why that was my understanding, is it's not necessarily even the union's ability to do it, which we've heard in the contract negotiations recently. They're going to bounce it back to the city council all the time.
It's just
Well, and
It is.
I think too, as far as like job security, like yes, I think we could only take a year off.
yes.
I think it was a year
Was it a year?
You could take up to a full year of leave,
if you wanted to.
but you wouldn't get paid. Like you could
You
take
wouldn't
leave
get
after.
paid,
But they would
and
hold your
I
job,
think
yeah.
I don't even think you would be able to work at the same school. I think you would have to work possibly at a different school.
So when I was doing it, I spoke to someone downtown, and since that was my third year? I wanted to take the whole year off, and they were like, "Well, you have to come back. You can't take the full year because you're not tenured yet." And I was like, "Okay." Was that 3 years?
You were going to take the second half of the year because you had Joey
3
in
years.
January.
Yes.
You
So
wanted to
so
stay
I was
out.
planning on just taking the rest of the year off, and they were like, "You can't." I was like, What do you mean?" I was like, "My principal said it was fine. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
you know." And they were like, "You can't." I was like,
Because you
"Okay."
had your 180 year, then 2 years, then you got
Yes.
pregnant. So technically,
So it wasn't my
180 didn't count.
180
towards-
didn't count.
Not
yeah.
towards-
180 doesn't count.
no,
80 doesn't
not
count.
towards not
Counts
don't
towards
do
your
any
pay
work.
step. Counts towards your pay
the pay
step.
step, but not
That's
to-
Right.
right.
We'll take your money.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
If you work
right.
free for 1 year, we'll pay you a little bit
Right.
extra. Than
So pretty much like they made me come back in April. I came back like I think it was the day before April break, and I had to stretch out. Like I had Joe on the 11th. It was a Tuesday, and my last day of work was that Friday. Like I thought my last day was going to be before Christmas
Because
break.
you did it, and then you're like,
I was like, "Bye, bye, everybody, bye." And,
And
then
then she's
he
back.
came 2 weeks later. I'm like, "Ugh,"
he
I'm
hasn't
back.
even come in. When was his due date?
His due date was December 31st, and
Yeah.
he didn't come until the 11th. So like after Christmas break,
What a
I was like,
jerk.
I can't afford to like start my, you know, like
Right.
you got to come back. So
Yeah.
like everyone's like, what the hell? And we still had to wear the
I mean,
mask.
I was very excited.
I was like, you know, like I would have rather be home, like with
you're
my
plodding
feet up,
through,
like, you know,
Bro, 9 months pregnant, I've never experienced it.
yeah,
but
I mean,
I've
we were
seen
going
it.
on like 10 months here. Like,
Doesn't look great.
Yeah.
and, but they made me come back in April. No, it doesn't look great. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, I love you and you're beautiful.
But no, it didn't.
doesn't
Yeah,
look
it was
great.
not a good look.
No.
Looks painful
It
and
looks
tiring.
painful.
Very
I'm
painful.
tired.
And the mask. We had to wear the mask.
Oh
too.
my God,
So I
that's
like
right.
literally
You
couldn't
couldn't
breathe.
breathe.
Yeah.
But
Not pregnant coming up the stairs. Is
I still can't breathe. So
you.
just imagine. But I had to come back in April, which was like 2 months. So it wasn't like terrible. But yeah, they pretty much said like if I was tenured, I thought it was up to 2, but you're probably right if it was 1. But the way they broke it down to me was like I might lose my room, like I'd have to come back as a floater again,
Right.
you know, like so I'd kind of lose on those things, which like I guess at the end of the day isn't that serious. I guess if I could take the time off, but either way I had to come back. Like there was no way around it. They were just like, yeah, no. And I was like, okay. So that was tough, you know. That was tough coming back, but such is life. I
That
guess.
sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It was
So-
tough. It was tough. Still, you know, breastfeeding
Well,
and
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that time too, because that same year, that COVID year, when I came back from maternity, September 2022 for Franklin, you know, trying to navigate how to pump in the school too was
Right.
a whole task in itself. My supply dipped. This was during the formula
yes.
shortage too. So at that point, I luckily got off a wait list of a formula that sends it to your house. But the stress of like, okay, now I'm going back to work. I just handed my baby over to complete strangers at daycare,
terrible.
which is so
know.
expensive.
And normalizing that is so messed up.
Oh my
That mothers can't
Yeah.
be with their kids.
It's terrible.
And fathers.
Right.
Sorry, don't mean to be rude, but parents.
yeah.
But like it's just unconscionable to me that it's like, no, we're just now you have to go find some nice
it's
company
crazy.
to hang on to your kid all day long. You know?
Is every school district a municipality or no? Is it or no? I don't
It
know.
has to be because it's a school district of a city or
Yeah.
town.
So like every
yeah.
school in the United
Any-
States doesn't
Every
offer.
town.
Massachusetts specifically.
Yeah, I don't know
if you're
about
a public,
every.
Yeah, if you're a public school teacher in Massachusetts, you cannot get
Really?
Yeah.
family leave.
Wow. Paid.
I don't really
Paid.
know.
Paid. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know about other states in the nation, or we're
don't.
really only focusing on us
Yeah.
because, frankly,
It's
about us,
Here
okay?
we are. Here we are.
yeah,
I just kind of going back to what you were saying, Michelle, like I think about how when you have a baby, sometimes it takes weeks for your milk supply to come in. Sometimes it takes weeks to get a child to sleep properly so that you're not sleep is a form of torture that we use in our
Yeah, sleep
society.
deprivation.
Right?
Yep.
Sleep deprivation. And so to ask someone, I'm not saying you're torturing your baby, but yourselves, right? You're asking people then to come back to work who are not 100%.
Right.
We're still not 100%.
Still.
No.
Our daughter still doesn't sleep through the night.
Yeah, and-
My son's 3 and he doesn't sleep through the night.
Does he sleep with
He's
you?
about, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It's easy.
I'm not
I
fighting
know.
it. Just
Why-
come to bed.
Exactly.
Not doing it.
You know, but things like that a woman should be able to like completely heal her body. That she has the right, if she chooses, to breastfeed, which is that's not something that everyone has the chance to do. Okay, it doesn't work for a lot
Yeah.
of people, but that was something. I think in Germany, had I not had the time, I had so many issues the first 8 or 9 weeks trying to get the supply to come in, not getting over mastitis. Which again, if men had to have
What's
children,
mastitis?
Mastitis is severe clogging
Ooh, that sounds
of your
painful.
ducts, your milk ducts in your breasts. So they are hard as a
Oh,
rock.
if men went through any of
Wrong.
this,
Yeah, it could be like you have a flu.
You have a flu, and it's really, really bad because then pus can come out. Like you have infection.
Yeah.
You can end up in the hospital.
Very painful.
So it's you're asking a woman literally to be ripped in half.
like a
And I-
nightmare.
yeah, it is. And then those are things that can come up.
And well, the minimum is 6 weeks.
The minimum is 6 weeks,
Crazy.
and then but you can go back to work.
Get back to it.
Your breasts are hard as a rock. Your lady parts haven't healed.
Yeah.
But go
Still
and teach
wearing
the
a diaper,
children.
yeah.
Yeah, you're still wearing
Yes.
a diaper. And speaking of diapers, infections can come from there.
Yep.
That women have to go through.
Yeah.
And I just think it is disgusting that is how little we feel of women and how little we value
Yeah.
our women and our families,
Yeah.
right? Or even our children. Because for me, that time being with the kids, I had Liam, and then in America, I had Charlotte and Anna, and it was god awful. But
Oh, so you've experienced both.
I had both, but I was not working with Charlotte and Anna. So it was
Okay.
we were just poor.
Yeah.
Right. But my husband, was able to
America, everybody.
Yeah, because we're like, we can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
so we decided if I went to work and I was paying daycare for 3 kids,
the same, yeah.
my salary was paying daycare for 3 kids, I was just going to stay home and be poor.
Yeah.
Poor and
You're gonna be
tired.
poor anyway.
Yeah, poor and tired.
Yeah.
But at least it wouldn't have been as stressful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? As working and trying to.
So poor and tired is the consistent.
this is just, yeah.
It's just what we're doing with the stress.
Right.
It's awesome. I love living here. This is great. Wow.
That's crazy. But back to the sick time though. So I did have the short-term disability, which I
Before he
Pay out of
but-
pocket for, right?
Did
Yeah.
you know about that? Because I actually
Yes.
didn't know about
I
that.
did.
And I feel like every woman listening to this who wants to have a family,
Do it now.
do it now.
sign up for that and pay it.
Yeah.
Until you know that you can't have a child or you're not going to get married or partnered up or have a baby. Just sign up for it.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous that we're even saying that.
It's because it sounds so messed up, but like it's a pre-existing condition, right? If you find out that you're pregnant, you can't sign up for it because
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
condition is
Kevin and I are looking at it like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I
Which
think that's
Sometimes
it,
you don't
right?
even
Am I
know.
right?
Yeah.
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 Even though.
It's true,
Bounce
and you
it
have
around,
to.
bounce.
And I feel like there's like a certain time frame too. Like you have to have it for a certain
6
amount
months,
of
I think.
a certain amount of time before you like get pregnant. So I had the short term disability. So I think they gave me it was like one check of like maybe like 2,300 because technically after 6 weeks I'm able to go back to work even though I was still home.
Yeah.
And then the second half of that, I was forced to use my sick time that I had. So because I got, if I remember correctly, because I had the short term disability in like the beginning part, which took so long to get, by the way, which like, and my husband, like he was working for the state of Massachusetts, he was already getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay.
Where's my money?
Right. Yeah. So because of that, like I couldn't pretty much like double dip and use sick time as well. If I remember correctly, for that first part, I had to use it, no choice. Like, what if you did have some savings, or what if you did like didn't want to use all your like you had to use,
Had to, yeah.
had to.
Forget then when you get back to work and your kid gets sick from being at daycare.
Right.
Well, that's one of the questions that
Every
we
other
have
week.
here,
Every other
right?
week, yep. And you're paying.
Post leave. Have you been able to accrue sick time back up?
No.
And if not, does that mean you're taking sick days and you're just taking pay cuts?
Yes.
Yes.
And I have a 14-year-old. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
In our circumstance,
Well, you've still got plenty.
no, but
He's the designated
Kevin.
but I will tell you this. After like making it an absolute known to like myself and my colleagues and my students that like I don't miss time, it has been so freaking hard the last 2 years being the like it's my like and I accept it like this is what I
what
wanted.
you can do.
Yep.
This is my job as dad, and I would not have it. I mean, I would have it another way
Yeah.
if we could,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I will
But you
do
can't.
it and
Yeah.
happily do it. But it's so frustrating. Every other week,
Yeah.
like sorry guys,
Every
I'm not
other
going to
week.
be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And then
it's
to
always
gain the
something.
trust of your kids back,
Yeah.
like your students back,
Yeah.
when you're missing so much time, is really, really hard, especially at the beginning of the year. If you are gone at the beginning of the year over and over and over again, the ability for them to trust that you're like, not only that, like the assignment you give is going to be due and like collected, but like that
like
they can
overall.
trust anything you say
Yeah. Yeah.
is difficult to get back.
Yeah, let's not even talk about what it does to us in the classroom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you miss a lot of days.
Yeah, last year I used. So what did we start with 10 in the beginning? I forget 10.
Yeah, I
Is
think
it?
it's 10.
Well,
I
isn't it
used
something
11.
like if you don't use X amount of time the year before, you get more sick time? So that just
5
sets us
extra
up for
days.
disaster, right? Because
Yeah,
realistically,
yeah.
like I had to burn through all my time. So like
Realistically, I don't think you guys can.
no.
No.
Can
It's almost
you
impossible.
accrue
And unless-
days back?
So
Or can
not
you,
really.
can
No.
you hold on to them?
It's
Do
like
they-
you use-
Do they go back or do they?
Well, if you used them all for your maternity leave.
Yeah, no. So I did gain some back, but then I burned them just as
'cause
quick
you have a-
because I
you
have
have
to
a
be
kid
out.
sick.
Like Joe was sick, like like the first year, like he had to get tubes in his ears, like he had an ear infection every other week.
I remember that.
And then once they're in daycare, forget about it. They come home with everything. So
Oh my God,
it's
he
like,
had hand, foot, and mouth
hand,
already
foot,
this
and mouth
year.
a couple. Yeah, already this year.
Some
already this
RSV
year.
is already going through.
I've burned through 4 days already this year.
Me too.
Strep.
Already.
I'm at 4 as well.
Already.
And that's
And-
not even me being sick. That's the
Yeah,
children
that's
being
yeah,
sick.
and,
yeah.
And last year, like towards the end of like, I forget at what point, like I used like all my sick time last year. So at one point, like towards the end of the year, I was like, I just have to take sick day, no pay, you know?
Yep.
And it is what it is. But I mean, it still, sucks, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I had to do one day because I came back last year from maternity leave with 0 days, and our daughters had every medical thing wrong that we're still trying to figure out to this day. And just like your son needed tubes, our son needed tubes. And I was like, I want to be there for the first time my son is being put under anesthesia.
100% terrifying.
Can I qualify for the sick bank? And luckily, I was able to. But the rest of the school year,
Oh, I didn't even think of the sick bank. last year.
I couldn't call out for myself or for them. It was
Yeah.
just Kevin, honestly,
Yeah.
always being the go-to person.
Yeah.
And him feeling frustrated that he was not being in the classroom. Totally valid. We couldn't flip-flop,
Yeah.
and take turns.
Yep.
It was just
It's tough.
all being on him.
So the moral to that story is don't have kids until you're like 8 or 9 years into your teaching career.
And not married.
Which
And
Don't-
don't
don't
and if
marry-
you
yeah,
and
don't
if
marry
you're
someone
gonna
in
start a relationship with a public employee and you're a public employee,
so ridiculous.
don't get married
Don't get married.
I just don't think
until you have kids.
That's terrible.
I think-
it's so true, though.
the dignity, we were talking about the dignity of like telling your employees, family first, but then saying, well, but when you need to do with your family, you have to go through me and with what we say is okay for you
Crazy.
to do. And here's a couple crumbs, but also maybe we're not going to help you at all.
Yeah, no, it's and like luckily like in the building like like calling out isn't like it's fine, right? Like
We're not guilted.
right, which is super important because I remember like my last job like before this like I'm like calling sick, click. I'm like oh, okay, like this is my sick day. Like you know what I mean? Like they just like guilt trip you. So that is like nice to know. If you're out for like 3 days, because like you said, Kevin, like my first couple of years here, like I never called out at all unless I was like deathly ill, right?
Yeah.
So like I was just saving my time. I mean, I wasn't.
Did you
necessarily
do
saving
that?
it.
I was going to say, did you plan on saving sick time for having a child?
No, not really. I mean, that was just kind of like my work ethic. Like I
Didn't
need it.
I don't really call out,
Yeah.
But I don't know where I was going with that.
I totally interrupted you.
I have no
We
idea.
were talking about not feeling guilted.
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
districts do that.
Yeah, and like,
That's also
Yeah.
not
and that is like a benefit of like being here in the building.
We are in a
which is
particularly
nice.
good building.
So when you're
Our
out for
principal
3
is
days,
particularly accommodating at times.
yeah, like if you're out for 3 days, like they understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is huge because like you feel bad, like not being here. It's like
Yeah.
kids, and especially in the beginning of the year, like I already told the kids too, like if I'm out for any time during the year, it's because of this guy, my son. And I point the picture to him, like
Yeah.
just so they kind of know in the beginning because it's true. And like my husband works overnight, so like he has his own business. He can't really like miss time. So it's me who has to stay home, So
Yeah.
if I run out of sick time, it's like it is what it is. So
It's me.
Well, and
yeah.
to go off of that too, I think if you're out for 4 days in a row, let's say, I think you have to have a medical.
a medical note, right?
Yeah. So, for example, if one kid of ours gets sick and then the next one's gonna get sick,
Yeah.
you're gonna be out for multiple days.
And then you get sick.
yeah.
And then you give it again.
And then you got to go to the doctor and pay that copay.
Oh,
and
please!
You know
if
what
I get
mean?
one more bill from the doctor, please. Like, what am I paying for? What
Yeah,
am I paying for?
100%.
I mean, a copay here, copay there. Please,
Yeah,
please.
that could be enough.
It's like you try to do things the right way, and then you just end up, it just not.
keep paying for it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you try to do everything, the right way and
Responsibly.
and then this is like what happens. Like it's just.
But it also comes too because, you have kids and then you get to a certain age where now you have to start taking care of your parents. You do when you need to take time to help the other end of the generation,
Yes.
the generations. It just kind of, or if you get sick. I mean,
Yeah.
our country isn't known for feeding us quality food and making sure that we're all really healthy. So, the likelihood of one of us having an issue that we have to take time off for isn't small. You know what I mean? Like there is a likelihood of it. Not that I'm trying to like manifest a sickness for any of us. Or
No,
anything.
it's true though. It's true.
But like that, the thing is, right? That might never happen, but the stress that's like at the bottom of your brainstem, just knowing that these things are now a possibility because you don't have time saved up. It almost makes you sicker and like
Yes.
you're
Terrible.
more stressed and then you have more physical ailments and it's kind of like this snowball where if you just gave it to us,
Everyone would be happier.
the relief
Yep.
and and, you know, there's a certain amount of stress that will be gone that I think, you know, the effects of that will be, well, maybe teachers won't feel so stressed that they need to take days, mental health days off that you disagree with, or maybe they won't feel used and undignified and don't abuse the system because they don't feel like anyone cares about. Like, there's reasons why people do this stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, obviously there are the people who just like don't care and do whatever they want to do. But I would like to believe the vast majority of people want to do the right thing, but there are these layers of stress upon layers of stress that compound. And not having this paid family medical leave, I feel, makes that worse.
Well, then, and also too, like with the health insurance, like say you don't have any sick time and you don't have the short-term disability, so you're just out and you're not getting paid, like they still expect you to pay your health insurance every month.
So you had to also pay your health insurance when you weren't getting a bill. So you had that $800 bill.
Yeah, yeah.
then-
So I mean, I got like the short-term disability, $2,300, something like that. But after
Which
your
is not a
mortgage, your car
lot.
payment, gone, gone.
That's
right?
not
Like,
a lot. And that was a one-time payment.
it was a one-time payment,
Yeah.
and I couldn't qualify for any more because technically after the 6 weeks, like you're good to go back, right? So like,
A man made that up.
right. So,
Men
but
made
it's
that
just
law.
it's just crazy to me how like they still, and they did like a prorated thing, like I said. So like I showed you the email the other day. It
Yeah,
was like, oh,
yeah.
new total 800. I was like, what? You know, like he wasn't even born yet in December. What's happening? But like the fact that they still expect you to pay that. I mean, not in full. Like they were pretty like, oh, you know, as long as it's $20 or what. Like I don't want that bill looming over my head, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't want. You know, and luckily we did
More
have
stress,
some. Yeah,
more
like
stress.
we did have some money put aside so I could pay it. So like when I did come back after the whole prorated check thing, you know, they just took like the normal amount out. But like the fact that like you still have to pay that while not getting paid
Yeah.
is crazy because not everybody has sick time built up. So what if you don't, or you don't have the short-term disability that they don't like advertise, so you wouldn't know unless you like sit down with someone.
I didn't even know that was an option
Yeah.
until I sat down
too
with
late.
Mass Mutual, dude.
Yeah, Mass Mutual. He's the one who told me to.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's do this now. Because I knew like at some point in the future, like we were going to, you know, try to have kids. So I was like, let me get this done now. But it's just that even that aspect, again, like just not like, how do you expect me to pay this extra bill without getting paid? Like, it's just crazy.
If
It's crazy.
things weren't
Crazy.
so stressful with this, do you think you would have a second kid?
Well, there's a lot more factors that go into that, but
are a lot more
but that's definitely a
factors.
big one. Yeah, like not
Like,
getting
is
paid.
it a big
and,
factor that weighs in
huge.
on your family planning?
Kind of, yeah. Because I mean,
That to me is gross.
I mean,
too.
not getting paid.
Right.
Yeah, that's huge.
That to me is
Huge.
gross. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody should have to plan their career
Yeah.
and their 8 years of teaching before
Crazy. How do you pay your mortgage?
How
Or
do you do
your
it?
rent? Like if you're not getting paid,
you're not
I
getting
mean,
paid. They cut it away from you. You don't have it.
I feel like this is an important point to kind of think about when we're thinking about the professionalism of education, right? I attended a symposium a couple weeks ago of, you know, how to get more people of color to join the ranks of education. Well, how do we get anyone to join the ranks of education?
Yeah, people are leaving.
When this is what we are offering.
Yeah.
I remember, ironically enough, because you're talking about, you know, happy or trying to family plan. When we moved to our village in Germany, I was on the playground, and the 4 women that I became friends with were teachers, ironically enough. And the stories, I'm like, no wonder people want to be a teacher here. They're you know, they're getting their time off. They're getting their spouses, they're sharing, you know, leave. Then when they go back to work, they can decide, are they going to work 75%? Are they going to work 50%? Or are they going to work 25%? they have up to 3 years per kid. So let's say you're working the system, right? And you're like, I'm gonna have.
Okay, time out.
I'll stop
Disclosure.
talking.
No,
Yeah.
full disclosure. I thought it was 3 years for all of the kids you had. You mean per kid?
Per kid.
All right,
Yeah,
continue
yeah,
with your
yeah,
story.
per kid.
Continue
Per
with your
kid.
story.
So you're talking about family planning. So my one friend Kirsten said, okay, so I had, Amalia, and I knew I was going to be home for 2 years because that's what we wanted to do. I'm like, great. And then when she got her 2 years were up, she got to go back to work, and guess what? Amalia got a spot at the village preschool for free because that's what they offer families.
Oh, free
So-
childcare?
Free childcare. I'm speaking again, if any German listener is listening, this is Rhineland-Pfalz, Rhineland-Palatinate. Not every German Bundesstaat is like this, but the Bundesstaat,
Bro, you got to use words I know.
not every German state
Okay,
is like
okay,
this.
okay.
We were in a pretty progressive state.
Oh, that was okay. The state you were in. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
but I mean, like the neighboring state, I think it was like 250
250 what?
like euros a month for childcare.
A month?
A month?
Yeah,
We pay $640 a week.
a week.
For 2.
Yeah. And I remember moving back with Anna. Anna had to go to childcare in Texas, and it was like, forget about it. $1,300. I'm like,
Crazy.
why?
They only
That-
care about unborn babies in Texas.
Right?
Like, I'm sorry you guys have to go there. That's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Anywho.
Terrible.
But I just remember looking at the women, and I told you, no wonder they look great because they're happy.
Yeah.
And they've had time to like sleep, and like
man.
here I am like nursing Anna, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
just a hot mess, and they're like, oh,
Trash
they're
bag,
drinking their
yeah.
little cafes, their little coffees, and then they're gonna have another baby, and I'm like, wait, what? And then it starts over again.
Wow.
If
So we should
had
go to
that,
Germany
I
and
might
have
have
kids.
a baby. I might
Right?
have a baby. Yeah.
And I
Germany,
don't
yeah.
mean to like make it, and I don't mean to be funny about it,
Yeah.
but this is why
have to laugh or we're gonna cry.
Men and women in Germany become teachers because they are considered government employees, right?
Yeah.
So like the state,
Yeah.
here we're
Yeah.
municipal. All teachers there are government employees,
Yeah, like
so their
state.
benefits
Yeah.
are a lot better. It's respected,
Yeah.
and they respect the position, and good
Yeah.
for them.
Is that the difference here?
Yeah.
I don't think we're respected.
Is that if we swim upstream to the core of the issue here?
Yeah. And can I just ask, because I don't want to disrespect Declan and Kevin for being here, but
Please
the
do.
majority of women
Please do.
run education, right? I mean, high school is different. We have a lot of male teachers. But when I look into elementary schools,
Yeah.
when I look into middle, it's heavy women dominated.
Yeah.
So then it causes me to ask, do we not just care about women? Because the women are the majority of the population of educators.
Yeah.
And the men that we have are fine men. But are we just, is this traditionally like how we view women? So
Oh, yeah,
this is what
absolutely.
we are, and it's all the unpaid hours.
Yep.
Just like mothering, right? It's like all the unseen jobs that you are doing.
Giving care to people is not worth anything. If you're giving them prescriptions, you'll make money.
Right.
But if it's just caring
We're
for
trying
someone,
to sell them something.
yeah, or you're trying to sell them something, but just caring for someone, the work that we do, caring for your kids, caring for your own family, all of the work women did at home for all that time, unpaid. That's not labor because it doesn't make money. So that's how it's
Point.
seen.
Yeah, that's a good
Here.
point.
Right? The only labor
Here.
that's
Here.
valued
Let's say here.
The only labor that's valued is labor that can make someone rich. So women don't get paid because there isn't value in our labor. And we just keep getting that taken more and more and more away until you can only be home, let your body heal for 6 weeks. And even though your milk hasn't all the way come in it's your time to go back.
And your
Yeah.
episiotomy hasn't healed. Just imagine cutting someone.
I think you should tell
you imagine-
everybody what an episiotomy is.
Is that German?
That is not.
No.
I love that for you. Okay, Declan.
No, it's not.
Declan's gonna learn a lot. Declan is
Here we go.
not married. Okay, so
Shockingly, Declan is the smartest person in the room.
he really is. No, when you have a baby and you are not, it's not going to plan. They will cut you from the bottom of your vagina up until that baby needs to come out. That is a very, very sensitive area. That is a very hard area to heal. Could you imagine having to take a boppy pillow to your classrooms because you have not only been ripped open, but you have been cut open and expected to teach while you technically could have stitches that would
Yeah.
rip
Let's
out?
read Macbeth. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk to me
Lady
as you're
Macbeth
trying
does
to
want
find.
to murder the king. Murder the king.
I mean, it's for
Yeah,
me,
it's
it's
true.
infuriating as a woman. And again, Declan, it's not towards you, but that we don't talk about. Right? Like men don't know these things.
Yeah.
Yet they are making laws
You're right.
about women's health that affects us in our jobs.
I just saw a meme that said
Yeah,
a
it's
woman
so
talked
true.
to a guy who thought the eggs, our eggs, were covered in shells.
I can't.
And she was like, I think of that every time a man talks
so
about
true,
what women should do for birth,
And even,
like
like-
abortion and stuff.
Like C-section is
Yes,
is
let's talk
completely
about that.
different.
That is a major surgery.
I mean, it's a major
surgery.
I mean,
Major
so
surgery.
I didn't plan to have a C-section, so I had no idea.
Who does? Who
Yeah,
does?
who
No
does,
one
right? So I mean, after the fact, I'm like looking up. I'm like, oh wow, they cut through. I mean, they cut through like 7 layers of you, like to get in there, and then you're expected. Like some people have to go back to work after 6 weeks, or
and you're not fully healed.
No.
still not fully healed. You still have stitches. You still can't
can't lift.
feel. You can't lift. I mean, and you're still bleeding. I mean,
you're
you can
still
still be bleeding for a very long time. And some people who can't afford this, they can't afford that. They have to go back to work. They're dropping their baby off at 6 weeks. 2 months, or like
Which
it's
is heart-wrenching.
heart-wrenching.
Also.
I think
On
I
top
cried
of
the entire
everything
week
else.
to Mrs. Reed. Like I was so sad.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And rightly so. I've cried with women who
Yeah.
have told me these things because it's just
because you get it.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
And we just have to normalize it. We're just making it normal.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody has to do it.
Well, then you also like run into people who are like, you already sent them to daycare.
like
Oh,
don't
yeah, you
even,
can't judge
don't
it.
even-
And you have to answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Do
you have to
answer
and
by
there's
punching
no
them in the face.
Yeah, and there's no like avoiding you going down the rabbit hole of explaining your entire situation because
No.
They're
you
like,
have
"Sorry,
to
I
feel
asked."
like I have to tell you all this because you don't
You don't
obviously
know.
understand.
right.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
but
you
Kevin,
are-
your mother or your grandmother could
Didn't
watch
have
the child.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they can
No,
watch
they
it.
can
Well,
watch
explain
the
to me
child.
how explain to me how one income could support a 6-child family back then and it doesn't now, and then we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can't even explain to me why that doesn't exist anymore, then stop asking me why my
Right.
kid's in daycare
That's none
6
of
weeks
your
after they're born.
Yeah.
None of your business.
Yeah.
And I can't feed my family like I have to feed my family.
Right.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
What are you supposed to
don't-
do?
Yeah.
Like, so we found ourselves in a situation where I had, prior to the children, I had already networked a job out to work night school here. And I had found my way into this position, luckily, because if I hadn't prior to that, I don't know how we would have made through or still would be able to pay for things that we need to pay for, like daycare.
So we actually have this question on here, right? Because you are a night school warrior.
Correct.
So that also
summer school.
and summer
And
school,
summer school, yeah.
which we talked
Thank
about.
you.
You brought up that also steals time from you and your family.
Yeah, so night school is something that before children, I did it when I was available to do it, or somebody else that was doing it needed to take a break, or they couldn't do it anymore. I said, sure, a little extra money in my pocket. What can I use it for fun, or to put away?
Right.
But now it's become a necessity to the point where if I wasn't doing it, we would be in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's come to pass this year because we went from 7 sessions of social studies night school last year, which got us through, to I finished the first session of night school this year, and I went to go look at when the second session started, and there wasn't a social studies one, so it made me look at the rest of the schedule. We went from 7 last year to 3 this year. So while it's there, and I am able to get that supplemental income, that extra,
Yeah.
it is gonna be a struggle to make it in between those times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It also gets you thinking, wow, I wish more kids will fail history so I can make more
It's
money.
a terrible spot to put yourself in. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Because my first
Yeah.
question was, we can't be doing that good. And that's a terrible question for a teacher who should be
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so happy that is in
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah.
And that was not my first thought.
You know, it's interesting we have this conversation about how you can't, because this takes us into a whole nother issue in bargaining that we could open up here with like the raise that we're looking for, right? But like it just blows my mind that, a father could survive with a family of 6 people on his postman's salary.
Correct.
Right.
And you have two full-time working parents, and you are
Master's degrees.
master's
Which
degrees.
I'm currently working on right now.
Which because you have to, because
Yeah.
they make
'Cause
you,
you have
and
to
they
do
don't
it.
help
5
you,
years.
and they don't help you pay for it.
They don't help
so
you pay
that's
for it.
that also.
No.
Correct.
So do you have to do your master's then plus 12? Because I was a career switcher, so I had to. I wasn't an English major. I was a journalism major. So when I got my master's in education, I then had to get 12 more credits in my content area at the grad level
Oh, for
I'm-
professional, right?
for professional. Yes.
Yeah,
so,
I'm still trying to figure that
Yeah.
out.
So they don't help pay for that at all,
No.
even though it's a requirement, and there are corporations that pay for that stuff for people.
Yep.
And also, like federal getting money back, right? You have to be in certain subject areas, which
Oh
does
yeah.
not happen for me.
None of us in this room are.
um,
I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
and like assistants. So like so Chad and I weren't married when we had Joe. So like I tried to get like WIC, and they were like, "Sorry, you make too much." I was like, and I mean, that was one of the main reasons why I breastfed too. Like I always knew I wanted
Right.
to breastfeed, but like formula is so expensive.
So expensive.
And if I
Diapers are
did,
expensive.
diapers,
How
formula,
are diapers, formula, tampons, pads all
Yeah.
not free?
and they would not
heavily
qualify me
subsidized.
for WIC. They said I made too much money. So like even just thinking about formula, like if I had to pay out of pocket for formula, that would have been so much money. But they're like, "Oh, sorry, you make too much." Like even like food stamps, like, "Yeah, sorry, you make too." I'm like,
And there are women who
I'm not
can't
making
breastfeed.
anything right now. So
Exactly.
like you know,
Yeah.
What do you do for the ladies?
What do you do
who
for the
can't?
women who can't breastfeed? You were able to breastfeed.
How
Yeah.
crazy of a
know?
statement is this for me to make? I'm thankful that my daughter needed prescription formula
yeah,
Prescription.
prescription.
Because then
so
it's
that
paid.
you
Then
could
it's
get
because
it.
all we have to do is copay.
yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yep.
so
How
expensive.
terrible of a sentence.
It's
No,
so-
it's
yeah.
really messed up
yeah.
to be like
It really is.
happy for that to be a
Yeah.
relief.
Right.
It's
It's
crazy.
like, oh, we found out that she can't drink mother's milk. She can't drink any of the formulas at the store.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the special ones that we were going outside of the store that were like the hypoallergenic
Yeah.
ones. We needed a prescription, and we were like, wow, this is way cheaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And then just the fact, like, oh, sorry, you make too much money. Like, what?
Yeah.
They're like, well, we go by your gross. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to look at everything they take out? Like, I
We
mean,
ran into that problem.
it's
too.
so frustrating. And then it's like, and then you almost feel like, like, oh, like lie. You know what I mean? Like you try to do things the right way, and
Yes, but you
they're
are
like,
the-
no, right?
Become the working poor, though. This is what I dubbed this.
Yeah.
As Jurgen and I moved back.
It's
you're
crazy.
educated, you're working, but you qualify. You make too much on paper.
Yeah,
And you're working your little booties off. Mm-hmm. But you become the working poor because you do not have the money to finance
crazy.
anything.
So it was crazy. It was
really.
it was a trip. Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot more to talk about, but we are coming up
Yeah.
on 3:45.
Got to get the kids.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to The Central Issue with Declan Kennan and Christine Blinn. Please see the show notes on our YouTube page for any clarifications and citations, and be sure to tune in next time.